the most tremendous new musical experience you can have.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Logan, and I'm here bringing y'all this review to this newest T.I album called The Libra. Now, T.I, we all know who T.I is by this point. He is a trap legend. He basically invented trap music. I might not even have to add the basically at that. Not only did he invent it, he revolutionized it. He helped make it what it is today. You can see, I'll talk about that a little bit later on in this review, but you can see how he's done that. He's an interesting artist because, again, while he did invent trap music, it's not the trap music that we know today, even though he invented and revolutionized it, because he's always been a conscious rapper at the same time. You know, he always brings some politics into his music, more so later in his career than earlier, as he has gotten more into politics and stuff like that recently. Specifically this year, I've seen him in public forums, debates, and stuff like that with people like Killer Mike, of course, them aligning in a lot of their views, and then also people like Candace Owens, who is on the opposite end of the spectrum. So it is always fun to hear what kind of topics he will bring into an album, into his music. This one clocks in at 20 tracks, 68 minutes, which is a lot for T.I in 2020. You know how as time goes on, albums generally feel like they're getting shorter. You know, used to back in the 90s, it was no big deal for an album to be an hour and a half long, near about. Nowadays, they're trending closer to half an hour long. So, you know, getting 68 minutes of T.I, that's a lot, especially considering he's not in his prime anymore. But again, he is bringing content, so it's not like he's just bringing meaningless music. So it can help you kind of stem the tide of the length of the album. One more thing I want to mention before I start really diving into this album, though. He did have a release party in Atlanta, I believe. Of course, I would assume it's Atlanta anyways. A big release party, and there was a lot of people talking about that on Twitter. Like, you're really risking your life with this virus going around at a T.I release party. Now, if it was Kendrick, that's a different story. Kidding. Wear your masks. Don't go out unless you have to. You know, all those things. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Not the best idea. Although I will say, you know, like, I had some friends clowning people for that, and I was like, well, I mean, but this album was actually pretty decent, at least, you know. So that being said, I'll go ahead and get into it. So the pros. 1, he's a legend. I mean, like I said, he invented and revolutionized trap music. He is a legend. He is on my Mount Trapmore. That's what I'm going to call it. My Mount Rushmore of trap. He always gets solid production. Of course, again, that's just a thing of being a legend in the game, being really famous. You get to work with basically whoever you want to. And he's also able to adapt his style to the times. So, like, he'll get producers that give him beats that are relevant to today. It's not like he sounds like he's still in the early 2000s like when he began. No, he sounds like a 2020 rapper, you know? And he's able to adapt to that because his style is so fluid. He can go with anything. And again, that just helps to show how he revolutionized this music now because of his way to adapt to it. Like, he's one of the reasons why it sounds how it is now. So I think that's pretty cool and fun to see as he continues to adapt throughout time, because this is not the same T.I that we got back in, what was it, 04 with trap music. This is a very different T.I, although still a lot of similarities, of course. Again, there will always be good content intermixed with the fun tracks. That's his staple, you know. He's going to have those tracks that are like really deep and make you think a little bit. And then there's going to be those fun trap bangers, of course. The features are another positive of this one. I'll talk about the bigger and best ones in my standout tracks, of course, as I usually do, but he also has ones from Rhapsody, who comes in on an interlude. She doesn't really spit a verse. It's kind of like a spoken word piece verse, where she's just hyping up T.I, and talk about Tip, all this. You also get Jeremy and Snoop on a track. You get Conway the Machine, and then a bunch of smaller names as well. And most of them do pretty well. They just weren't exactly notable enough to talk about, or in like Rhapsody's case, it was an interlude, so I didn't feel like it deserved being broken down. The cons. This isn't T.I from the 2000s, you know. While he is able to adapt with the times, he's not in his prime, like I said. While I think it is a positive that he talks about big, important, smart things, sometimes he sounds like he just wants to sound smart, not that he actually is. It's like he's saying things and wants you to think he knows what he's talking about, but sometimes you can tell like he doesn't actually 100% know what he's talking about. I'm not saying that on those topics I know more than him. In most cases, I would say, generally speaking, he is pretty well versed in what he's talking about, but there are times where he comes off as he's just trying to say big things to come off as smart and doesn't know all the different angles and stories, of course. Sometimes he sacrifices content for the sounds. Sometimes it's the opposite. He sacrifices the sounds for the content. However, normally, again, this is a small con because normally he does manage to find that balance and it works out very well, like I mentioned in the pros. It's just when it doesn't, it's noticeable, you know. And then again, the length. It's just way too long for a T.I album. You know there's going to be some filler on this one. So now I'm going to talk about the standouts. Not all of them are standouts per se, specifically these first two that I'm going to mention. They're more so just big enough names featured on there that I had to talk about them. So first comes Ring with Thugger. Young Thug, of course. It sounds like a normal trap song for 2020, honestly. Again, showing his range, which is a positive, and how much he has influenced the music. It's kind of on the notes, though. You know, nothing stands out per se, but it is a solid track. I did like how Young Thug was able to show his ability to sound natural with any artist that he works with. Of course, T.I is more in his wheelhouse than a lot of other artists that he has worked with. But he just sounds natural. You know, he's able to adapt his sound. I've been talking about how T.I adapts. Thug adapts. He is the most adaptable rapper in the game, possibly. And I love hearing him on this track, even if it's not one of his better verses and even if it's not one of the really more memorable songs on this album. Then after that, we get Pardon with Lil Baby. Again, bringing in the new faces of the game, making a fun track. You know, you get a legend and then a modern big name. Put them together. Usually it's going to be pretty fun, pretty good. It's probably one of the closer tracks to Radiohead, if radios are still playing T.I, or if you still listen to the radio and don't have Spotify or Apple Music. Not trying to hate on anybody here. But it's really fun, upbeat production. You get a solid hook and a small verse from Baby, and overall, it's a decent track. Again, not stand out, not going back to it a lot, but it's fun. And again, Baby is just a big enough name I had to talk about it. Now, from here on out, the tracks that I mentioned are actually really freaking good. First off, Respect the Code with Rick Ross. This has some beautiful jazzy saxophone production, which fits perfectly, of course, with the glamorous style that Rick Ross has dominated his whole career. Like I said in my Benny review yesterday, Rick Ross dominates features. He does not miss on features 99% of the time, I'll say. His solo work, I think, is good. It can be hit or miss. His features are pretty much only hit, though. And I really enjoyed this track. These two work well together. After that, we get Make Amends with Benny and Jadakiss. Yeah, this one kind of shook me a little bit that he got these two on here, but I thought that was pretty awesome. I love these two when they work together, so hearing them with T.I, while an interesting combination, it does work. This has one of my favorite beats with some clear, hopeful, classic-sounding production that works for some hopeful / braggadocio rap. And it fits all of these guys so well. You know, T.I, he has that kind of vibe where he can give off some hope to his music, and then the other two guys work very well with some gruff braggadocio rap, so it kind of fit all of their styles very well. And they all give really good performances, although I will say I'm giving Jada the best verse on this one. Rare that Benny gets out-rapped, but if it's going to be by Jadakiss, then I'm fine with it. Next comes by far the best song on this album, one of the best songs of the year, How I Feel, featuring Eric Bellinger and Killer Mike. I tripped up because I have him in here as Mike. I was like, hold up. Anyways, yeah, best song on the album. Amazing David Banner production. Someone that I haven't heard in a while. So whenever I heard the David Banner at the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. We'll see. Man, okay, so the production gives off a very somber yet also kind of hopeful vibe, which works very well for what they're going for. They're talking about sad things, but they're trying to give hope in that things are going to change. So T.I and Mike rap about the killing of black people, of course, you know, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain, so on and so forth. There's just too many names to list. But they're also talking about how to fight back. Their ideas aren't specifically peaceful. And I understand that. I'm not going to be on here talking about what I think is right and what I think is wrong. This is just their perspective. This is where they've come from. And this is how they think it might need to be handled because they think that maybe the peaceful protests aren't working, which, let's be honest, has anything worked recently? So yeah, it's really deep content and really meaningful, and I don't know, Killer Mike might have given the best verse of the year on this one. It was really good. And again, it's very soulful, very uplifting, but also humbles you at the same time. That's a really good track. That is a really good track. And then we get Thank God featuring 21 Savage, kind of the last song on the album. There's one more track after this, but I don't believe it's a full song. And again, this is a great way to conclude the album with a song that just kind of gives off the vibe of being thankful for all you've given and what you've earned in your life, for all you've been given and what you've earned in your life. I thought this was a pretty solid track and a great way to end it. Overall, my conclusions on this one: this is a pretty solid album. It's better than you would expect it to be. Again, considering T.I 2020 and it's as long as it is. But again, it's still too long. T.I being who he is, he, at this point in his career, would work better with a 40-minute album. And this should have been 30, 40 minutes. You cut out all the filler. You keep the tracks I listed and then a couple more. And again, cut out all the filler. And this would have been a great album. I'm not going to say it would have been like top 10, top 20 of the year worthy, but it would have been really good. I still thought it was good. And I'll still go back to quite a few of these tracks, but I don't see myself sitting through the entire album again because, again, there are a lot of skips on this one. So overall, my rating on this one is going to be a better if it were shorter 7 out of 10. Ideally, if he cut the tracks he needed to, I could see this rising up to an 8 out of 10. I don't see it going to 8.5 because even the tracks that were worth keeping, some of them weren't amazing. They were just good. I'm just saying cut the tracks that are like, okay, no track was bad, but it's like, okay, that wasn't needed, you know? So that's just my thoughts on this one. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, sub. Let me know what you thought about this one. Let me know what you want me to check out next. I should have another video coming out later this week. It'll be like a quick review, just talking about some that I didn't talk about last week and some that I didn't talk about this week. I think I have one from this week and two from last week. I was going to do it last week, but then I was like, I'll just combine these two since it doesn't seem like there will be that much. Either way, expect that either tomorrow or Friday, depending on how my week's going. But that's all I have for y'all. Make sure to hit the bell next to my name so you don't miss any videos, and I will see y'all next time.